Hello everyone, it's DuckFaden07. Today we are playing BEANBLADE brew. Okay, so actually this brew started as a Naya build with the Leyline Binding mana, but I ended up really not liking the Nissa in the deck, so I replaced Nissas with the Omnath. And Omnath was much better in getting me the card draw. When it enters the battlefield, it wasn't boltable. Nissa just ended up dying all the time, never getting the full ability, and also it was just mostly just too slow getting the value. It did not really fit the curve that well. So Omnath was much better in the late game, providing me the life gain I needed against a lot of matchups. So when you get the thing going with Beanstalk, you really want some kind of life gain. At first I tried it with the Butterskull, and but Butterskull is obviously not Omnath. Butterskull is still cool. It triggers the Beanstalk when you cast it for 5 mana, which is pretty decent. And but in the most situations, you will just go for the Kaldra or the sword. This is just so rare to ever go for the Butterskull. Even against burn, there is high chance to go for the War and Pieces. This can gain a lot of life for even less mana. But Omnath was really the card I wanted and needed in a lot of matchups. The life gain was crucial, and I think it was the right decision. So we got a Fervent Champion here. Fervent Champion, we are trying to abuse the ability to equip for 0 mana these 3 swords. So the Fervent Champion actually is really vulnerable to the Bowmasters, but that's why we are almost never playing the Fervent Champion unless we can go for an immediate equip. So that is a strategy in playing this deck. This deck is not as aggressive as some Fervent Champion builds in the past. You have the Beanstalk here, you have your Elementals protect you, getting you to the mid game, late game, but you can still be very aggressive with the turn 3 equip sword. Of course, when you know that your opponent can't interact that much. And but usually I think it's best to go for a turn 4 equip sword if you can afford it, of course. And okay, so that's it. We are trying to do some different strategy for winning and trying to abuse the power of these swords to win games in today's meta game. And these abilities that gives you protection from colors, I find it out that these are really good at the moment. Similar to how in my Soul Flare brew, when you get the hexproof on the Soul Flare, a lot of the matchups just can't get rid of it, and especially like Murtide and 4-color Omnath, they just can't handle it. And it's similar with the sword, especially if you can get War and Peace equipped on your creature. It's pro red, pro white. It is almost impossible for them to get rid of it. A lot of black matchups in the leagues lately, so Sword of Feast and Famine in the main, and that is basically it. This is like proving to be regular stuff. 4 Beanstalk, 4 Solitude, 4 Binding, 4 Fury is basically what you do when you start making a deck like these with beans, and then you add different stuff. Okay, and so that's it basically. And let's see, mana base 22 lands with a bit more basics, because it's really just Naya focused, except Blue Splash for the Omnath. We have 1 Steam Vents and 1 Raugrin Triome help us cast the Omnath. That's it. On the sideboard, Cascade Hate, Scam Hate basically, and some other matchups, of course, red based. Obsidian Charmaw, Land Hate, Artifact Hate, more Artifact Hate, more Artifact Enchantment Hate, some Veil of Summers. As I noticed, the deck has problems with Dimir control, so after including the Wheel of Summers postboard, I had much better results. And Endurance as my choice, just 2 Endurance actually, because I already have Sanctifier, which helps with the graveyard hit. So just 2 Endurance, although it's not that easy to pitch cast it in this build. Only 9 green cards in the main, but it is doable, and so far I basically want to hardcast the Endurance anyway most of the time, so it was totally fine. Okay, so let's go to the league and check out how the matches went. Okay, in the match 1, I played first. I was playing against the Dredge, so let's see how that went. I don't actually have anything to beat Dredge in the first game, so I just depend on them having a slower hand while I can start abusing a Beanstalk to the point that it becomes really disgusting. But yeah, I wasn't able to deal with all the stuff they had. I was just not able to stop the gaze getting back. Getting back their stuff. So they had Cathartic Reunion on 2, doing some creeping chills, returning Ghoul, returning Amalgam. And I was able to deal obviously with these few creatures in the beginning, but yeah, they had a lot of stuff next turn, and I draw into bunch of lands, which wasn't definitely good. Opponent had the Ox next turn, they cast the Ox and bring back a lot of stuff, and I was already on 9, so this was basically game over for me. Casting this Ox, I didn't get anything, just another land from the top. Okay, so we can go to the game 2. Okay, let's check out what I did with the sideboard. I really wanted to put that Sanctifier. Sanctifier is really good against them. And of course, Endurance. But that's basically it. That's all my graveyard hate. But also have Drannith Magistrate. Drannith Magistrate prevents them from casting Ox and otherworldly gaze from the graveyard. So I brought in 2 of them in the second game and 3 of them in the third game. I was able to grab a sword here. So they can't really cast much from the graveyard this turn, so I decided to go for the Stoneforge Mystic first and then wait with the Drannith Magistrate for the next turn. Opponent had slightly slower hand this time, and this was like exactly what I needed to win this game. And now I cast the Drannith Magistrate. Drannith Magistrate prevent them from casting Ox or Gaze from the graveyard, and it completely shut them off. It was amazing. Opponent had the Dark Blast here to deal with the champion, but it was okay. I equipped the Magistrate, go for 5 damage here, putting a really good clock on the field, also making Magistrate really harder to deal with. And yeah, okay, so it really locked all their gazes, all their Oxes in the sideboard. They did find Assassin's Trophy to try to get rid of it, but I have like Ephemerate to protect my Drannith and then equip again, presenting lethal for the next turn. Opponent plays a blocker. I already have protection from blue, but I play another Stoneforge Mystic, finding Kaldra and putting Kaldra immediately into play for the win. So that was the game. I mulliganed to 5 cards without any hate, but still managed to get the win thanks to the Drannith Magistrate. And as I said, in the game 3, I brought in the third one too. Okay, so that are like I had like 7 cards actually for the matchup, which was pretty decent. And in game 3 I started with Sanctifier plus Endurance. This was pretty cool. Opponent went for the Tom score. Nothing crazy happened here. They put Ox in the graveyard and the Ghoul. So I just untapped and played my Sanctifier, exiling both Ox and Ghoul from the graveyard, still having the Endurance for the backup in hand. And yeah, so it was an easy game from this point. After casting the Sanctifier, all the relevant cards in their deck are either red or black. So it's really hard for them to win after this. And here I go for Solitude, Ephemerate. Exile both of their creatures, attack with Sanctifier for 2, and I decided to cast the Wrenn and Six. I was in no real danger of them doing anything crazy, so I was able to go for the Wrenn and Six, get my fetch back, and have mana to hardcast the Endurance next turn. So now I had Solitude and Sanctifier on field. Opponents just started hardcasting their creatures. I had like Ephemerate Rebound here to get rid of Amalgam and continue attacking. And now I also have a second Sanctifier plus Endurance. It doesn't get much better than this for me. So I cast the second Sanctifier. Opponent concedes the game. That was the match. Okay, so let's check out the match 2. I had to mulligan this one. I keep poor hand like Bolt and Wrenn and Six. So I think I was against Amulet. No, sorry, Yawgmoth opponent. And I think for these being Yawgmoth is just very uh, strong deck. And but their worst matchup is probably like Scam and all these Solitude Fury piles with the Beanstalk. They do have Orcish Bowmasters, which is like really great and makes matchup almost even. But still, uh, at least with this version, I feel kind of favored since I have a lot of solutions, even for their Agatha post boards, a lot of artifact hate. And okay, so my brand was on one loyalty, so I decided just to ping their token. Opponent plays the Yawgmoth, so I go for Solitude here, drawing a card, exiling the Yawgmoth, and still had two Furies in my hand, which was pretty good. Opponent killing, drawing some cards, and I decided to, maybe this wasn't a good decision, but I decided to pitch cast my two Furies, kill, finish the Young Wolf, and remove some loyalty counters from the Grist. Opponent then unfortunately finds the Cauldron in situation where I didn't have anything in my hand, and now every creature they have is Yawgmoth, and I decide to concede immediately. That was the game. So let's check out the game 2. Let's check out my sideboarding plan. 2 champions out, 2 fables out, and 1 sword out. In a lot of situations, I remove 1 sword from the main. Against Yawgmoth, War and Peace is probably the useless one. So opponent goes for Zulaport. I have Wrenn, and already I have Beanstalk on the field. 2 bindings in hand, Furies. This is basically impossible game for the opponent. I just have a removal for everything they do. It's really hard game. So I have now full domain. I cast Arid Mesa holding binding for their turn. And on my turn I have Omnath plus Fury. So I didn't even want to go for binding now. I prefer just Omnath plus Fury on my turn, gaining some life in process. So I cast the Fury, getting rid of Omnath, getting rid of Yawgmoth, and opponent decides to concede, so we went for the game 3. Again, my sideboarding plan. Okay, so I kept a pretty decent hand here. Beanstalk plus some removals, I think that is like perfect plan against what they're doing. Opponent passes the turn, so pretty suspect of having Bowmasters. That's why I go for Wrenn and Six and not the Beanstalk. And opponent goes for Fulminator Mage, which was really, I was really fine with it because I had the Wrenn and Six. And then I cast my Fervent Champion because besides from Yawgmoth, they don't really play much removal. But it ended up not being a good play because my opponent had exactly Yawgmoth next turn to kill my Fervent Champion, and their Fulminator Mage was basically useless at this point, so they just attacked Wrenn and Six, and on my turn killed my champion. I usually prefer to not play the champion, but hold it in hand until I have the sword, and then cast the champion and sword on the same turn. Yeah, but this was again really hard position for the opponent. I have the Beanstalk on the field. I have a lot of removals in the hand. My opponent just really don't have much options right now. So I untap, go for the again go for the Omnath, go for the fetch, get the basic, Solitude the Geist, and ping their Yawgmoth, so I can bolt it next turn to finish him. So already I also get to draw a card in the process. So again, pretty poor position for the opponent. Even if they get good draws, it's still pretty bad looking for them. So opponent gets another Yawgmoth and they play Agatha Soul Cauldron again. So now this meant every creature is Fulminator Mage, but I have already Wrenn and Six on the field, Wrenn in the hand. So I go for Prismatic Ending, exile the Agatha Cauldron, and they went for the Agatha. I bolt the Yawgmoth in response, and they concede the game. That was it. Okay, so let's check out match 3. Okay, so pretty good hand, I would say. Beanstalk on turn 2, Fable turn 3, and then hopefully find a sword for turn 4. This looked like a good situation for me to go Wrenn ping the Havarmite, another Yawgmoth matchup, which I already said, like, it really seems good to me. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I was just lucky, but it really seems pretty decent. Opponent goes for the Grist, gets 2 tokens. I decided to get rid of my champions. They were kind of useless right now. I really wanted just to my 5 mana spells, Beanstalk, and start triggering the Beanstalk, exiling their Grist. And I went for the attack just to get the treasure token, passing the turn. Next turn, when I untap, I have second Beans. Yeah, and it was looking pretty good for me. Opponent was able to finish off my Wrenn and Six there, but it was still fine. I went for the Solitude before casting the second Beans, but opponent has a second Bowmasters in response, killing my Kiki-Jiki. Now I resolve the Solitude and take one of their Bowmasters, so it's okay. Like, now they had a 4/4 army token, so I wasn't able to attack into that. But it was fine situation still for me, even if they even if their Bowmasters did a good job. I only had the Beanstalk right now, so I decided just to go for it. And giving them 2 pings is worth it when Fury is coming into play. So I decided the Solitude kill would be like really free, so I decided to gain some life before attack, before casting the Fury. And yeah, now second main phase, I go for a Fury. They kill my Goblin Shaman token for free and grow their Orc to 7/7. Really a large Orc, but I get to kill the Bowmasters. So it was fine. Also draw the third Beanstalk. Opponent now has the Yawgmoth. I take 7. So I need to find again solution for it, but now opponent doesn't have Bowmasters anymore, so I'm just free to play my Beans and hardcast my Solitude, exile Yawgmoth, draw 3 cards in the process. Opponent has a very large Orc, but I think they should have killed the Fury here and not to leave the Fury as a 1/1. Thanks to this, I was able to. I mean, I was able to just jump with Fury next turn, and this way they would be able to kill the Solitude and prevent me from jumping here. They wouldn't have this Yawgmoth right now, but I would be on 2 life, which would be little bit more complicated, but anyway, I had the Omnath, and that's exactly why I added Omnath to this list. In a lot of situations, you get really low on life before you can dominate with the Beanstalk, and I really wanted some kind of life gain in the deck. Already have a War and Peace, and I could go with Butterskull, obviously, but I thought like Omnath is probably a better option. And right now I draw like a bunch of cards with the Beanstalk, gained a lot of life, and this is it. Like there is no way opponent is getting out of this situation. And yeah, okay, so gained more life. I cast all my swords, equip all the swords to the champion, and put Kaldra into play. And this is basically almost lethal on the spot. Not really, but really close. So opponent concedes, and that is the game. Okay, let's check out the game 2. Equipping all 3 swords, also Omnath. That would not be ever possible without Omnath. Omnath enabled equipping all 3 swords on the same turn, putting them all into play, and the Kaldra and the Fervent Champion. Okay, so opponent goes for turn 2 Grist, really good, one of the strongest play they can make, and I had Binding, luckily, immediately to get rid of it. So now they went for Agatha Soul Cauldron very early, but they didn't have much in the graveyard to copy with Agatha, so they, I went for Endurance here, not letting them get the counter and not letting them attack. Opponent just casts Halfling and they had Shieldred, I think, yeah. So I had 4 mana, I wasn't able to kill the Shieldred, so I was just holding mana to cast another Endurance if they attack, getting me another land. And I get a white card here, so I was able to actually pitch cast the Solitude, get rid of this Sheldred. And now I was able to start attacking with Endurance and hold another Endurance to play it if they try to attack. Opponent puts a counter on Insect token, plays Hapatra, goes for attack with everything. I cast my Endurance, block the Insect token, let the 2 damage through. And then I tap, get the land, and hardcast my Fury, killing the Hapatra. This was really important. And I still had a second Fury in my hand in case they find a Yawgmoth or something dangerous. Opponent exiles one of their creatures, making Halfling a 2/3. So next turn, Halfling can now be 3/4, which means that it's trading with my Fury. I went for the attack first, holding the Solitude at this point. And yeah, opponent before the blockers, they go for a Chord of Calling, finding the Fulminator. Not sure. Maybe, yeah, this play was fine. They just had the ability to kill a bunch of my lands. But I had a lot of power on the field already, and I also played the Solitude before they killed my land. And yeah, so I tried to win with what I have on the field. I also get the Wrenn and Six. I was able to play Wrenn, get my lands back, but I decided to kill them immediately. Pitch cast Fury, kill 2 of their blockers, and put them on 3 life, which means like they have no chance, even with the best top deck like Yawgmoth. They concede the game. That was it. Okay, so let's check out the next match. Okay, in the match 4, I was playing second. Opponent started off with Totsis, they were on Scam. So again, my plan is try to resolve the Beanstalk and then just win by the power of Beanstalk card advantage. A Scam can't really handle that well. If you succeed to answer their early threats, they also didn't have they didn't scam anything in the first 2 turns, so the game is immediately much easier. Okay, so here opponent goes for a Swamp and plays a Fable, I think. Yeah, and I think I should have gone for Pitchcast the Fury, kill this Goblin Shaman immediately, and this would prevent a lot of damage. They dealt a lot of damage with this Goblin Shaman token, and yeah, I think that was definitely the play. So if I did kill the Shaman token last turn, now I would be able to, they would have anything on the field, I would just play the ending, kill their grief, and yeah, this Goblin Shaman token ended up attacking a lot of times, taking a lot of damage from the life total, which made all their top decks a lot better. Okay, so yeah, now the Kiki-Jiki flipped, and instead of being on 14 life, I was now on 9. Now my Kiki-Jiki also flips. I get to play the Binding, draw a card, find another Beanstalk. So this meant I can go for the Wrenn and Six, get my land and get another basic, cast the Beanstalk. Opponent has Takenuma in response getting the Bowmasters in their hand, but they can actually cast it immediately. I had Kiki-Jiki active next turn, so I decided to let this damage to Wrenn. So now I had Solitude open, plus ability to copy the Solitude token. Make a Solitude token with the Kiki-Jiki. But I knew my opponent has Bowmaster in his hand, so I was waiting with Solitude. But now when they got the grief, I didn't have much choice. I had to go for a fetch and cast my Solitude. Unfortunately, this meant that I'm losing both the Kiki-Jiki and the Wrenn in response, because they get 3 Bowmaster pings. Yeah, as I said, I lost the Kiki-Jiki, I lost Wrenn, but I resolved my Solitude, taking their Bowmasters. Now they resolve their grief. Sorry, I went for the Binding before that, so I take the grief with the Binding, and now they resolve the grief ability, taking Omnath from my hand. I played Champion here. Equip Champion, go for the attacks. Opponent decides to trade with Solitude, which means I get to connect with Champion, taking their second creature. And now I play Wrenn, get my fetch back, and I now have a Sword of War and Peace in hand. I have Stoneforge in hand to get a third equipment, and opponent concedes the game. That was it. It's kind of hard for them to deal with the sword if you can get to that phase of the game. And yeah, so now I keep hand with a lot of removal. So even if they have like grief, even if they have grief here, they can't prevent me from killing the grief on my turn 1. So this is very good hand against the scam. And yeah, so unfortunately I was stuck on 2 lands here. I had a hand was like really good. Binding, double Binding, double Fury, Solitude, Stoneforge, Omnath. Yeah, really good stuff, but unfortunately I got stuck on 2 lands. I wasn't able to get my basic, and in the meantime opponent finds the Blood Moon on their next turn. I was able to get rid of the Ragavan here, but I also find the beans, and I did find a land, but it wasn't really the land I was looking for. Fetch would be perfect, and opponent now resolved the Blood Moon, and I didn't get the spell. I have some spells that are good under the Blood Moon, like Fable. I have these Furies, but not enough lands to cast them. So yeah, I was able to kill the Fury, but I didn't get to also Swords. I can cast Under the Moon, then Fervent Champion, equip it, which is very good, but I didn't get spells I needed on time, and that was game over. Okay, so let's check out the game 3. Okay, in the game 3, really good hand, like Beans, Wrenn, Fable, all these cards are very good. Opponent starts with a Leyline. And yeah, this was my sideboard plan. 2 champions out because of the Bowmasters. 1 Wrenn out, 1 Omnath, and 1 Sword. Boseiju went in, Endurance went in, Sanctifier went in. All these cards are just really good against my opponent. Opponents, yeah, didn't play well here. They played their Undying spell before they resolved their first Grief trigger, so I was able to get one spell more with my Solitude there. And now I untapped to resolve the Beanstalk. I prioritized resolving the Beanstalk to resolving Sanctifier, because the Beanstalk is engine which gets you so much cards on the field. And I get also draw a card here, get rid of their Leyline of the Void, play another Beanstalk, put Sword on the field, and yes, so they are one land. I have 5 lands and 2 beanstalks, and I just wait to find anything to win this game. I cast Stoneforge, opponent concedes the match, and that was the game. Okay, so let's now go to the last game of the league, the only defeat. I also forgot what was it against. Okay, so let's check out this. It was the Amulet Titan. I had a Fervent Champion here, and since I was secure it was Titan, I'd cast it immediately. Also had a sword, turn 3 sword, equip, and also find a Feast and Famine, and War and Peace. So if they play a blocker, I can go for uh, Feast and Famine, but unfortunately they had like a construct here, and I can't have a protection from colorless, so this meant they get to block here on this crucial turn. So if I connected with Sword with the War and Peace here, this would be 6 cards in hand and 3 damage. This would be 9 damage, which is like really huge. 9 damage from one hit. That is actually insane. And opponent now has Azusa on their turn. That construct really did a good job. And now they had Azusa casting double Dryad. So I had multiple options here. I had 2 bindings, I had Fury, I had another sword, and unfortunately opponent also has the One Ring. Pretty crazy turn for the opponent, and I decided to get rid of the Dryads. Maybe the play was take the Amulet, because yeah. So now they were able to play the Growth Chamber twice and play the Titan immediately. Yeah, which was, yeah, just I'm not sure, like, if I went for the Amulet, I think I would be in a better situation, and I would get another untap. Titan would not be on the field at this moment. I would get to untap, do another attack before they even cast the Titan. I would get like 2 triggers from 2 swords. I'm not sure what would happen exactly, but I would be in a lot better situation than I was right now. Opponent also went for Boseiju, getting their One Ring back, and yeah, I would be able to. I would have Fury on the field at that point, and this is the turn my opponent would be playing their Primeval Titan. So it would basically maybe be a completely different game. And in this situation like this, opponent now finds the kill very easily with Summoner's Pact and One Ring card row. That was it. Dryad plus Valakut, it was enough. Okay, so let's check out the game 2. So the small decisions like this, like that one to kill a Dryad instead of Amulet, possibly costed me that game 1. And I didn't have much but Stoneforge into Kaldra in this game 2, and the Solitude for their Dryad or Titan, whatever. But it can be pretty decent, so Kaldra is really not that easy for them to answer. But it seems like opponent packed good sideboard for my Kaldra. They had Tear Asunder immediately, unfortunately. Yeah, so that was pretty good for the opponent. And again, my sideboarding plan. Two Fervent Champions out, one Fable, one Bolt, one Sword, and that's basically it, okay? So I cast my, I wasn't able to attack here. I just cast my Omnath to get the draw, and they were also kind of slow, so I was able to cast the Solitude, start attacking here finally. And my draws were like really terrible. Already 5 lands on the field and 3 more lands in the hand. No beans, so pretty poor draws. Fortunately, I got some decent cards from top. I got Tear Asunder helping me to exile this Primeval Titan and stay in the game for another few turns. Opponent this turn has to pay for the Summoner's Pact, which means they can't really do much this turn. But unfortunately, again, they have the ring on this crucial turn, preventing another 5 damage. So I go for I go cycle, land, get the binding, exile the ring, and get sword in my hand so I can equip it next turn. But now I know my opponent has Tolaria West, which means they can go for another Titan. And unfortunately, they find a second Amulet. And second Amulet, yeah, it's really easy to get a kill with the 2 Amulets. So now they're able to cast the first one, get their Tolaria Vest, get the second, then haste and double strike both of them, and that is the kill. Okay, so pretty standard stuff from Amulet Titan, and some really close but not good decisions costed me that game 1, and that's it. So it is a strange looking build at first, but I think this build makes a lot of sense. It is very similar to the Fervent Champion builds that circulated around like a year ago. I just basically added Leyline Bindings to that list and the Beanstalk bindings to support the beans, and removed ephemerates. This list used to play 4 ephemerates mostly. I don't think you need that much ephemerates with beans. So the beans went in for the ephemerates, bindings went in for the bolts, and basically Omnaths and Fables went in for the Ranger of Fios, Ranger Captain of Fios. So basically that's it. Everything else is pretty similar. And sideboard, I decided for, as already said, uh, things I after some game testing, I like Wheel of Summers. I added because I noticed that deck is struggling against Dimmer Control, and matchup was much easier with when you draw a few wheels. And that's it. So hope you like the video. Hope you like the gameplay. Friendly reminder to click like, click subscribe, comment in the video, especially if you have some experience with the deck list. I'm really interested to hear what are your results. And that's it. So changes, possible changes to the list are addition of Butterskull. Butterskull is cool. And as I said, I was really disappointed with Nissa, 3 mana Nissa. It was really bad in the deck. I think it's not for this build. And okay, so another possible addition is like maybe second Bolt. And yeah, that's it. That's it. And thank you for watching again. And that's it for today. Goodbye.